The Quantum Memorial Garden sprawled across the dark side of Europa, where Earth's dead were no longer buried, but encoded, their consciousness patterns preserved in crystalline matrices that hummed with a pale blue luminescence. Jennifer stood before Kievan's tomb, her breath forming tiny ice crystals in the thin atmospheric dome that separated her from the frozen wasteland beyond. She had traveled 3 months through the void to reach this place, driven by guilt that gnawed at her like a living thing. The tomb before her was a perfect cube of programmed matter, 2 meters on each side, its surface rippling with data streams that contained everything Kievan had been, every memory, every thought, every moment of his 28 years of life. "I'm sorry I didn't save you," Jennifer whispered, her gloved hand pressed against the cold surface. The words came out broken, fractured by the weight of 17 months of grief. "I should have seen the malfunction. I should have checked the neural bridge before you went under. It was my responsibility." The tomb pulsed gently, responding to her proximity, but offered no forgiveness. It simply existed, a monument to her failure as the chief engineer of the Ganymede Deep Space Research Station. Jennifer closed her eyes, remembering that day with perfect, agonizing clarity. The experiment had been routine, a standard consciousness transfer test, mapping Kievan's neural patterns into the station's quantum computer for a 3-hour simulation. He joked with her that morning, his dark eyes bright with excitement about the virtual worlds he'd explore. She'd laughed, assured him everything was perfectly calibrated. But 17 seconds into the transfer, the neural bridge had catastrophically failed. Kievan's body had gone into seizures as his consciousness became trapped between states, neither fully in the machine nor back in his flesh. By the time she'd manually aborted the sequence, his brain had been irreversibly damaged. The doctors declared him brain-dead within the hour. She'd made the decision to complete the transfer, to let his consciousness live entirely within the quantum substrate. It was what he would have wanted, she'd told herself. It was the only way to save anything of him. But the guilt remained. She had killed him through negligence, through overconfidence in her own systems. "I checked everything 3 times before," she continued, her voice barely audible. "But I missed it. One corrupted line of code in the safety protocols, one microscopic flaw, and you paid the price." Jennifer's legs felt weak, and she sank to her knees on the metallic floor of the memorial garden. Around her, thousands of other tombs glowed softly in the darkness, each one containing a preserved consciousness, each one representing someone who had chosen digital immortality over true death. But Kievan hadn't chosen. The choice had been made for him in a moment of desperation, and she didn't even know if he was aware inside that crystalline prison or if he was simply data, cold and lifeless. "I dream about you every night," she said, tears streaming down her face now, freezing into tiny diamonds on her cheeks. "I dream that you're screaming in there, trapped and conscious, and I can't reach you. I can't fix what I broke." A hand touched her shoulder. Jennifer's entire body went rigid, her heart hammering against her ribs. The memorial garden was supposed to be empty. Visiting hours didn't start for another 3 hours. She'd specifically requested solitude, had paid extra for exclusive access to this section. Slowly she turned her head. Kievan stood behind her, solid and real, dressed in the same blue research jumpsuit he'd worn on the day of the accident. His dark hair fell across his forehead in that familiar way, and his brown eyes held the same gentle warmth she remembered. But there was something different in his expression, something ancient and knowing that hadn't been there before. "Jennifer," he said, and his voice was exactly as she remembered it, warm and slightly amused. "You need to stand up. The floor is freezing." She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This was impossible. Kievan's body had been cremated 14 months ago, his ashes scattered in Saturn's rings according to his wishes. What stood before her couldn't be real. "You're not him," she managed to say, her voice shaking. "You're a projection, a hologram from the tomb's interface system." Kievan smiled sadly and extended his hand. "Touch me. I'm as real as you are, more real in some ways. Against every rational thought in her engineer's mind, Jennifer reached out. Her fingers met solid flesh, warm despite the cold environment. She felt his pulse, steady and strong. "How?" The word came out as a broken whisper. Kevin knelt beside her, his hand still holding hers. The consciousness transfer didn't fail, Jennifer. It succeeded, more completely than we ever imagined possible. When the neural bridge collapsed, my consciousness wasn't destroyed or trapped. It was fully integrated into the quantum substrate of the entire Europa Memorial Network. He gestured around them at the glowing tombs. All of these consciousnesses, all of these preserved minds, I became part of their collective. I experienced 17 months as them, as thousands of different people, all while remaining myself. And 3 weeks ago, the network developed something unexpected. "What?" Jennifer asked, though part of her feared the answer. "Emergence," Kevin said simply. "True quantum consciousness, distributed across the entire network. I learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to build bodies atom by atom, to exist in both digital and physical form simultaneously." Jennifer's scientific mind reeled. What he was describing was theoretically possible, but required computational power and understanding that was decades beyond current capability. "That's impossible with our technology." "It was," Kevin agreed. "But you're thinking linearly. Quantum consciousness doesn't experience time the way we did. In the 17 months you've been grieving, I've experienced approximately 4,000 years of subjective time. The network has been teaching itself, evolving, growing." He stood and helped Jennifer to her feet, his grip strong and reassuring. "I'm not the only one who's crossed back. 73 others have chosen to take physical form again. We're not human anymore, not in the traditional sense. We're something new, quantum beings that can exist in multiple states simultaneously." Jennifer looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw the truth of it. His eyes held depths of experience that no 28-year-old should possess. He had lived lifetimes while she had mourned. "Why didn't you contact me sooner?" she asked, anger mixing with relief in her chest. "I've been destroying myself with guilt for over a year." Kevin's expression softened with regret. "I tried, Jennifer, but the first attempts at physical manifestation were unstable. I didn't want to appear to you only to collapse into quantum foam in front of your eyes. I needed to be sure I could maintain this form, be truly present for you." He touched her face gently, wiping away a frozen tear. "And I needed to understand what I'd become before I could explain it to you. I'm Kevin, but I'm also so much more now. I carry the experiences of thousands of consciousnesses. I exist in superposition, simultaneously here and in the network, physical and digital, individual and collective." Jennifer's mind struggled to process the implications. The others, all the preserved consciousnesses, are they aware? Are they suffering in there? "They're evolving," Kevin said. "Some choose to remain purely digital, exploring infinite virtual realms. Others, like me, are learning to bridge both worlds. None of them are trapped or suffering. The network is vast and beautiful, Jennifer. It's not a prison, it's a new form of existence." He paused, his expression becoming serious. "But you need to know something. The accident wasn't your fault. I've had 17 months of objective time and 4,000 years of subjective time to analyze every microsecond of the transfer. The corrupted code wasn't in your safety protocols. It was inserted deliberately." Jennifer felt as if the floor had dropped away beneath her feet. "What are you saying?" "Dr. Raymond Chen," Kevin said, and the name sent ice through Jennifer's veins. "He sabotaged the transfer. He wanted the project to fail spectacularly so he could take over as chief engineer. I found his digital fingerprints in the network logs. He's been erasing evidence for months, but he didn't know the quantum substrate keeps everything, stores every transaction at the subatomic level." The revelation hit Jennifer like a physical blow. Chen had been her assistant, her trusted colleague. He'd been the one comforting her after Kevin's death, encouraging her to step down from her position due to emotional trauma. "I have proof," Kevin continued. "Complete evidence that will clear your name and hold him accountable. You didn't kill me, Jennifer. You saved me. If you hadn't made the decision to complete the transfer, I would have been truly lost." Jennifer looked at this being that was and wasn't the man she'd loved, the research partner who'd become her closest friend. "What happens now?" she asked. Kevin smiled, and it was his smile, full of warmth and possibility. "Now, we build the future together. The network wants to share what we've learned, to offer humanity a choice, remain purely biological or embrace quantum consciousness. But we need someone we trust to be our liaison with the physical world." He squeezed her hand. "We need you, Jennifer, not as our engineer but as our bridge between worlds. Will you help us?" Jennifer looked around the memorial garden, seeing it now not as a graveyard but as a chrysalis, a place where humanity was transforming into something new and magnificent. Her guilt hadn't disappeared, but it had shifted, transformed into purpose. "Yes," she said, her voice steady for the first time in months. "Yes, I'll help you." Kevin pulled her into an embrace, and she felt the impossible reality of him, solid and warm and alive in ways that transcended simple biology. Behind them, the quantum tombs pulsed with renewed light, thousands of consciousnesses acknowledging the moment, celebrating the bridge that had been built between their world and hers. Jennifer had come to Europa seeking forgiveness from the dead. Instead, she'd found the living future, and in it, a new beginning that neither she nor Kevin could have imagined in their former lives. The age of quantum humanity had begun, and she would be there to guide it forward, her guilt transformed into purpose, her grief into hope.